Then you're gonna go back.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we are opening this regularly scheduled board meeting for Washington Unified School District on December 12th, 2022. And we are going to do our roll call. Clerk Coffee,
Present.
trustee Venegas,
Present.
trustee Bazadi,
Present.
and Vice President Wong will be joining us shortly. I am also present. And our land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin. The Washington Unified School District and Board of Trustees acknowledges with respect that the land that West Sacramento occupies is a traditional and ancestral homeland of the Patwin and Nisenan people. We recognize and thank the Patwin and Nisenan people as the original stewards of this land, and we honor their continuing cultural and spiritual connections to this special place. And that takes us to the announcements of items to be discussed in closed session. We have Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release. Government Code Section 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiators, WSTA, CSEA, and Management. Government Code 54956.9, D2, Pending or Potential Litigation. Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, one potential case. Are there any public comments regarding closed session?
No public comments received.
Okay, and then we will go into closed session and reconvene at 6:30. We are going to reconvene this regular Board of Education meeting for Washington Unified School District on December 12th, 2022. And we are first going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And would Stephanie Grote lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? It's behind the TV. It's behind the TV.
Behind the TV.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, and now we have roll call. Vice President Wong. Present. Clerk Coffee. Present. Trustee Venegas.
Present.
Trustee Basadi.
Present.
And I too am present. And now we have announcements of actions taken in closed session. Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release. The board voted 5-0, with all trustees voting yes to terminate a classified employee's employment with the district. Government Code Section 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiators, WSTA, CSEA, and Management. Information received. Government Code 54956.9, D2, pending or potential litigation, conference with legal counsel, anticipated legal litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, D2, one potential case, information received. And that takes us to the approval of the agenda. Do I have any changes to the agenda? Can I get a motion to approve?
I second.
Moved. Okay, trustee Venegas moved and Vice President Wong second. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Okay. So now that takes us to communications and celebrations. So Association of California School Administrators, AXA Region 3, Every Student Succeeds Award recipient, Stephanie Grote, our Director of Compliance and Accountability.
Hi.
Okay.
Hey.
Hello. This is exciting.
Oh, there.
Oh,
Oh, you wanted it towards us.
I can't see.
Oh, perfect.
I don't want to be on camera.
it's okay.
I don't know what happened.
Hi, welcome. Are you excited?
Yes.
Okay. It's all about you. Oh, and here comes the camera. So now it's really all about you. Okay, good evening, President Kirby Gonzalez, School Board, Superintendent Hildreth, and the community. Thank you for being here tonight. And I'm privileged this evening to sit before you to recognize a fabulous student, a Washington Middle College student. We do have his principal, current principal, Ms. Lane, as well as his former principal. I don't know, right? Back there, this evening. So I currently serve as the YOLO AXA Charter President, as well as the AXA Region 3 Vice President of Partnerships. And I can say with confidence that you truly are deserving of this recognition. So the Association of California School Administrators, AXA, as we call it, honors students from across the state who have inspired us with their courage and their resilience. In the winter of 2021, so exactly a year ago, the YOLO AXA Charter selected Jose as one of 3 students to be recognized as a Region 3 Every Student Succeeding recipient. In March, Region 3 recognized students from across YOLO and Sacramento counties. At this award dinner, Jose is surrounded by several of the staff, as well as his family, who were also here this evening. We had an award dinner, and at that time, he was selected as the Region 3 ESS Every Student Succeeding Award recipient. Everybody. So this past November, State AXA recognized 21 outstanding kindergarten through 12th grade, as well as adult education students at their annual summit. Several of us were there to cheer you on, but unfortunately Jose could not attend. So we wanted to come here this evening to share the recognition.
Oh, wait, you didn't say clap now.
Not yet. We have a video that was shown to everyone in San Diego.
Hmm.
I was at home doing a math test. After I finished the test, I got unconscious, falling to the floor and threw up, and my vision started to be blurry, and I saw everything black, like I couldn't move. And I was just thinking, am I gone, or am I still here in the world? Or I didn't know what was going on to me. So we went to the hospital, and that's when we found out that I have brain tumor, germinoma cancer. I couldn't believe that I was gonna be the one having a brain tumor. So I was feeling sad, hopeless, like I couldn't do anything right there. And so what I did was just like, this will go by, just give it some time. It will all be over sooner or later. When I was little, 5 years old, I saw like fire trucks going by in Mexico, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to help people. I want to communicate with them, know what's like going out there and what other people's lives are like. You have a lot of support from your family members, friends, probably teachers. They will all help you out. And if you just think positive, never think negative, because that will drag you down.
Tonight, and I know that you've already recognized, we have a couple of gift cards as well as a check that was provided by Region 3, but I actually have some other items for you. I have a wonderful copy, to scrapbook for your parents that has your name in it. I have brochures from the recognition in San Diego. I have a beautiful plaque as well. And then I also have a check for $1,000 from We are truly honored to be here tonight to recognize you and thank you. Do you want me to take your stuff back? So
If
do you
we,
have something that you would like to say?
I'm not sure. Well, thank you for giving me this. Like, I never thought this would be so beautiful, struggling with the journey. And yeah, to say thank you to God first, and then to my parents, my teachers, my principal, and my new principal. And yeah, some friends that were there for me too, which is not a lot, just one. And yeah, thank you very much for all of this. I really appreciate it, and I will do my best to keep going on in life and do great things.
I won't take them.
before you go, if we were in our typical chambers, we would all take a picture, and I think we should do that here as well. And certainly, we'll find a good place for where we can all be. And what an inspiration, what a really beautiful story. And thank you for being here and for representing all of Washington Unified as well. And the board members want to share.
Over there.
And it really is Washington Unified as well as the county and our whole region, Region 3 that goes all the way into Sacramento County, Elk Grove. So represented
Oh,
as
that's
well.
awesome.
No, just thank you for sharing your story. Not everybody is just inspirational, right? And continuing on that journey. And so what a blessing you are.
Thank you.
What a blessing you are. So thank you for sharing and just being a light for others.
Thank you.
Okay, picture.
Take a picture.
Let's have everyone line up where I'm standing right here, just in a row.
Definitely.
And I'll bring out this front end, but you want to hold the check? What do you want to hold?
I think I just hope this.
Would you like?
No, you're right in center.
Yeah, the principal.
Principal and family.
Yeah, principal's family. Mr. O'Neill. All right, John, don't be shy. That's not, okay. It'll be live.
No,
Jose go right in the
yeah.
middle, yeah.
You know,
Okay,
the hip away from the body.
one more shuffle. Just make sure that if you're in the back row, you can see the camera. Camera can't see you.
I'm trying.
All right, one.
see me, Yorgos?
All right, we got everyone. On three. 1, 2, 3.
Wait, Stephanie, you're the
Oh, yeah.
Hiding out.
doing? Get over here.
No, you have to say too, where you go?
Oh, yeah, you have to
Sorry, I'll-
say. Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good.
One more time on 3.
But again, that takes us to our association reports. And Jose, you are also our student board member, correct? Yes, for Washington Middle College High School. So we're looking forward to your report.
Bring up the board.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the student board report. Like you already all know, my name is Jose Sanchez Paredes, and I'm from Washington Middle College High School. Island Elementary School. I'm sorry. Here are our second grade students performing a ready readers theater writing to include their vocabulary words, and they also had their Ivy Elementary demonstration school where they had one-pagers, Cornell notes, and those are just some of the few strategies they learned. Riverbank K-8 school, the Assistance League of Sacramento donated backpacks, coats, hats, and scarves to all second grade students at Riverbank as part of the Action Week of Service. Riverbank is one of 39 schools the Assistant League supports with their philanthropic efforts. Oakland Village had a Santa night, which looks amazing from the picture we see. And it was all done by Parent Booster Club and staff for putting on this great event. Southport Elementary School had a spelling bee winners from 6th to 8th grade and 4th and 5th grades. Had a successful Spirit Week, and we see some pictures of the Spirit Week. That's what I'm guessing right now. Fun too. Stonegate Elementary had also a Spirit Week, and it was all put down from 8th grade leadership students, and see some students smiling here. Have fun with the color pink. Westmore Oaks Elementary. Congrats students will receive the Achieve Academy Award. And they had a Winterland door contest, which, yeah, I do think that is the best one.
Yeah.
And they went to Washington Memorial College High School to learn about construction and culinary. Westfield Elementary is having a shout out to Westfield parents. Thank you to them to continue to show up and participate in their coffee with principal meetings. And yeah, we see all the meetings here. Virtual Academy had in December traits of open-minded and adaptable. And on November 29th, they had an in-person day and celebrated students for the trait of the month, and also those who completed their 8-week PAPA domain course. Evergreen Elementary are excited to start the next semester with their students, and they supported them this semester that just passed, and we'll keep doing the same for the next semester. Mr. Young and Mr. C had a great time co-teaching a math lesson with a focus on student talk time and partnering. Washington Adult School has a new logo, which looks really cool. They celebrated their students for making a great progress on what they really wanted to keep going with, which looks like pretty awesome. Yellow High School says thank you to Assistant Superintendent Stova, Assistant Superintendent Moshi. Sorry for missing some names. Director Grove, Director Burns, Karen Swan, Coney Bandorian, and Lina Harbill for making this dream a reality. And students will be showcasing their projects on December 22nd, and we're all invited. Nice. My school now, Washington Memorial College High School. Seniors had started to apply to colleges and universities, 18 out of 21 students, and 3 colleges in career. 16 CSU had an early decision acceptance letters from Sacramento State, Cal Poly, Humboldt, Sonoma State, Stanton, sorry about that, Chico State, and I was actually had a mission to Sacramento State. Just wanted to. We had the serial closing argument and AVIC collaborative study groups for Sacramento City College physics, which was really hard, but I passed.
Good job.
Thankfully. River City High School had the Kwanzaa December 13th, which we see some pictures here of what they did or what they have done, which looks amazing. And they also had a blood drive, 24 pence of blood, 72 lives saved, which is very thank you to River City kids, Raiders. And thank you very much.
Thank you, and you are welcome to head out and celebrate, or you can stay and give input on any of the agenda items we have as well. So it's your choice. If you want to stay, you are welcome to do so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next we have our CSCA report, and we have President Gonzara.
Superintendent Hildreth, President Kirby Gonzalez, Board of Trustees. I'd first like to say congratulations, Sarah and Virginia, on your election victory. Next, I'd like the board to know that the reclassification window is open and many of our hardworking classified members will be submitting a petition to reclassify. It is important to note that the request for reclass is mainly due to additional duties and work being done that further enhance the learning opportunities and parent community engagement for the benefit of our students here at Washington Unified School District. I asked from this school board that the classified staff who submit these reclassifications get the same consideration and process as our management teams have received over the past year. We will speak more about this in the January meeting. Next, I would like to thank Ed Services, Stan, who left. I think Matt's still here, maybe he left. Sarah and Connie, and all others involved in making and putting together the January 10th PL Day. Classified staff look forward to this, and we want to recognize the classified team that are helping to make this event something we can all benefit from. And in closing, I would like to state for the record that CSCA is in agreement with WSTA on looking at new ways to meet and engage with the school board. We feel strongly that many of our concerns could be shared in a more productive manner, and looking forward to additional meeting opportunities. With that, you guys have a good evening and have a good Christmas and a good holidays.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our WSTA report, and I think we have Vice President, is that the correct? Yes, for Colin Mellon.
Good evening, President Kirby Gonzalez, Vice President Wong, Clerk Coffey, Superintendent Hildreth, and trustees and cabinet. Happy holidays, first of all. Doug is obviously in absentia, back issues tonight, limited his mobility, so I am just filling in and giving you a updated report as well as some concerns and acknowledgements as we get out of here for the winter holiday. And I hope you all have a restful holiday and an enjoyable time with your families. As we get ready to dive into 2023, WSCA has been thinking about our mutual priorities for the near future. We've had very productive meetings with both Dr. Hildreth and Dr. Mascarenas, regarding our community schools planning grant. I hope I got that right. It's my first time saying it. We focused on discussions, finding ways to effectively engage with both parents, students, educators, and staff. So basically all key stakeholders, as well as our community partners. As you're likely aware, meaningful engagements can be extremely difficult, especially during this post-COVID time, when people are still concerned about their health and safety, as well as to try to develop meaningful, positive relationships and partnership education. It can be particularly challenging when seeking input from marginalized groups, displaced groups, populations on the outskirts, where it's harder to make inroads with those parts of the community. Simply asking for volunteers to participate in development and planning for community schools will not suffice if we are seeking to develop true partnerships in WUSD. Doug and I are bringing this up because I would like you to encourage, and please encourage the board to take advantage of connections already established, relationships that have been cultivated and developed already, meaningful discussions that have taken place, as well as local parents, leaders, and groups in those areas as your capacities as elected designees. Currently, WUSD has identified both River City High School and Riverbank as the first district LEAs to participate in community-based school processes. We are at a critical juncture in planning for our community schools. WUSD must submit their application for the implementation grant by March. In order for us to have a plan that encapsulates a vision that represents all of our educational partners and stakeholders, we have a lot of information to gather, as well as work ahead down the road. We must reach out and cast a wide net to gather this information. We must also be visiting schools, community organizations, churches, local parent groups, business partners as well to develop inroads and gather crucial stakeholder input. Our planning group should represent a snapshot of our diversity. We need to conduct a broad values inventory for each of these schools and the people that make up their communities. We should know what sets these communities apart as we look forward to strategizing, collaborating, and crafting community-based and driven schools. We should be determining strengths-based assessments so that we can focus on what is already happening in these places and work to develop them. Also knowing our areas for growth before we submit an implementation plan. If we have the opportunity during this time to visit effective community schools in Northern California, we need to make sure that all community partners are represented in those visits as well. The community schools movement requires a collective investment educating our children. The The process to design these programs cannot be perceived from a top-down structure. This is the antithesis of what a community-based school model would be. We must go from the bottom up. This is not a top-down based structure. If we really want our students, families, educators, staff, community members, and vital stakeholders, as well as our business partners, local community leadership, city council, mayor, and cabinets to represent this, we must have and put a stake in for our schools and include them in this process. It often says that we need to recognize a village to raise a child. River City should not necessarily be a culmination of the positive community schools model. It is the culmination of all of the investments that we have done in the K-8 models, not the starting point. On the issue of communication, leaders in both WSTA and CSEA have been working to develop a way to receive feedback on the concerns that we present to the school board. It is our belief that all parties have a mutual interest in setting up regularly occurring joint 2x2s. We understand that tracking various issues as well as the problems associated, communication back and forth between both involved parties can be very challenging. Joint 2x2s do, however, provide opportunity to discuss and stay on top of ongoing issues and effectively manage implementation of potential solutions to all stakeholders. Please anticipate somebody from WSTA to reach out to respective organizations in order to schedule meetings. We would love to be part of these joint conversations for 2x2s as we find them both meaningful and beneficial to all stakeholders involved. On my last bit tonight, please finally work to finalize any and all MOUs and timesheets outstanding before the break. Let's show WSTA and community stakeholders that WUSD is committed to professionals, their profession, and any and all meaningful professional development. Thank you, and I would like to wish you all a restful, joyous holiday break. Happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and in the words of Kramer, Festivus for the rest of us.
All right, thank you. Okay. So that takes us to public hearing, which we do not have, and that takes us now to public comments. I have 2 public comments. If anyone else wants to do a public comment in the audience, I think they're right over on the table. You can get those in. And I have our statement to read. Members of the public may address the board on topics of the board agenda during every meeting. In addition, during regular meetings, the public may also address any topic within the jurisdiction of the board. Please know the board is listening to your comments, but by law cannot meaningfully respond in this forum to items not on the agenda. The board may limit the total time for public input on any topic to 20 minutes unless it waives the item limit for any item. Individual speakers may be limited to 3 minutes to comment on any topic. The board respects the right of members of the public to speak regarding matters within its jurisdiction. However, please recognize that comments regarding students other than the speaker's own children made during a public board meeting may be a violation of students' rights to privacy, unless the speaker may be legally liable. If you reference a student's name other than your own, you may be deemed out of order. Furthermore, it's important for the public to understand that negative or derogatory comments made against district employees or others, even those made in a public board meeting, may be actionable civil defamation. Although the board may not prohibit such comments, board policy allows the public to lodge complaints against district employees, providing more opportunity to be heard than is allowed under the open meeting laws that govern this meeting. Okay, and we have 2 public comments tonight, and I know that we are in a different location, so I apologize if you ended up first at City Hall, but we have Ricky Brazil, our first speaker up. Hi, thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Ricky Brazil. What I'm here is I'm promoting an event we have going on. It's going to be January 7th. It's due to the fentanyl epidemic that we have going on. My son has passed away. Longtime student in Washington. I'm a coach Washington Little League for 13 years. We're doing a free day at our gym, the local gym in Broderick. So it's a free day of MMA training and weightlift training, and to give up other options for these kids in the neighborhood other than out here, messing with these pills, and keep it away, give them something to focus on. I have flyers, and I have talked to the school board, and I've sent the digital flyers over. And we're running out of time. It's on January 7th, but we want to get the community support and get many as kids as I can get in there and have a good day. And we are open we're having classes that will be starting up the weekend after. So the kids have something to go to. If they like it, they can come to the gym and we will have kid classes and adult classes. And that's it. I would just like for you guys to show, I have a lot of community support. I have so far confirmations from the mayor and from the chief of police and that type. The Habitat for Humanity will be involved, fire department, all that. I started real grassroots. It was just, I was doing it for the neighborhood. I had a lot of sponsors. And then I got to start getting the city support. And they had me come in here. And if you guys like some flyers, I have flyers and I'll pass them out. And then we also have the digital flyers. The guy over there had them for me. I went to the school board too. I was doing it my way. I appreciate all the help, appreciate all his help.
Leave the flyer.
Okay, I appreciate you guys and thank you for your time also. And it's a memorial for my son, but it is a fentanyl awareness day. Have a lot of, if you guys want to see, I do have a lot of flyers that we have printed out from a lot of different things, the one pill kill and all the, and all different kinds of stuff that's breaking it down. And we'd like you guys to get there and hang, come hang out, lift some weights. I got some pro fighters gonna be there. I got some black belt jiu-jitsu guy,
Deadlift competition, me, you.
all ages.
Deadlift competition, me and Al.
Come on in. You'll love my pro fighter. He's the king of the cage native champion.
Okay.
And Bam is crazy, but he's a good crazy. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for giving your time and,
Oh, no problem.
okay.
Thank you guys.
And next that takes us to Felicia Leatherly. Oh,
Thank you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone you know want to come, it's also catered too.
Oh.
We have drinks and snacks and everything for the kids.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys.
Dear Board of Trustees and Superintendent Hildreth, I'm not nervous at all. I'm here tonight to speak about one of this evening's consent items and make myself available to answer any questions you may have. In 2017, the Syncopating Sea Monkeys traveled to New Orleans for a trip very similar to the one we are planning for March of 2023. Of the 20 musicians who experienced New Orleans, 2 are now working as performing musicians in New Orleans. 1 is in New York. 1 is a student at the prestigious Berklee School of Music studying abroad in Spain. 1 student's entire family moved to New Orleans. For this trip, we are planning many adventures, including, I get tired reading this list, a day of service with Habitat for Humanity, a jazz dinner cruise, a master class at the Preservation Hall, the National World War II Museum, performing the Memorial Second Line. We have a student who lost a parent just before Thanksgiving. Viewing the Battle of New Orleans site, cemetery and ghost tour, clinics with several musicians, to be at a jazz festival, swing dance lessons, performing at a local jazz venue, appearing on WWOZ, doing a music exchange with a local high school, swamp tour, a streetcar ride to explore the Garden District, Louis Armstrong Park, Congo Square, local cuisine. The kids are really excited about that. The Mardi Gras World Museum, Katrina Museum, and playing with our Sea Monkey alumni in New Orleans. All students will be on independent study and will have 2 hours of study time minimum daily. Just take care of everything. All students enrolled in jazz band the spring term will be going on the trip regardless of their ability to contribute to the cost. I will now relinquish the remainder of my time to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your time and consideration.
we can't do a back and forth in this way, but I'll tell you that if the consent agenda item, if anybody pulls the item and has a question, then that would be the time for our process.
Okay, should I wait for that?
Well, it's right after we have one information item and then we have the consent agenda item. Yeah, unless we want to move consent early. Does anybody have any Reason not to move consent early?
We'd have to withdraw,
Okay, all right, we'll wait on.
process.
Okay, all right.
I want to mess.
No, but it would make it easier for so many people in this room. Okay, so we'll do a discussion item first. Okay. And so with that, we have our information discussion item, District Office Facilities, Monique Stovall, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Time is up.
That's a quick meeting. There we go.
We're ready for break.
Thanks for the information. We have the PowerPoint.
All right.
Moving on. Good evening. This evening, I am joined by our Director of Facilities, Giselle Geiger, to present to you for an information item and discussion, a topic of district office facilities. We do want to share that this topic was also discussed at a recent facilities subcommittee and then bringing it forth. For the purpose of this information item is to discuss options available to house the district office, including modernization, relocation to an existing site, or leasing space. Next slide. We always want to start our presentations now with its alignment to the strategic plan. You'll note that for the goal, we are aligning it with whole child, healthy, safe, challenge, and supported. Our equity principles focuses on a safe and empowering environment for every student, staff, family, and community member. And for our pillar, we're focusing on pillar D, safe climate and equitable access for all. Next slide. To expand on pillar D, we are identifying it as meeting the criteria for system-wide key actions for D1 to ensure that every school is safe and welcoming for students and staff and families with uniform standards and conduct that are free to all and disciplined practices that are equitable, enforced, restorative, eliminate disproportionalities by student group. Next slide. So background on this particular topic. Our district office facilities, where we are this evening, are in poor condition. And one of the original district campuses, it was built in 1940 and additional construction work occurred in 1946 and then also in 1960. Just a bit of a reminder, this used to be a school site and we are currently using it as our welcome for new students, new families, new employees. And it is really the first entrance and many times to and welcome to our schools. Next slide. So what's the problem with the space? Based upon our assessment and from our personal experience, conversations with our district partners, conversation with staff, and also our research, we have identified that this district office is in disrepair and need of modernization, including upgrades to finishes and plumbings and windows. It's portions of this particular office area are not ADA compliant, American with Disabilities Act compliant. In addition, portions of this particular campus were not permitted to house students in some of these areas. Next slide. When we're thinking of how best to house our staff, a philosophy that I have with our team is that our facilities should reflect how we feel about our students and staff. And so when we were assessing this particular topic, we looked at, okay, what would that space need? And based upon our research, we identified that currently, based upon the information we have right now, we would need about 25,000 square feet to include about 20 offices and desks, a training space for about 50 people, a business area for conferences, storage, break rooms, and enough parking for staff and visitors. Notice that we did not include really many extra spaces. We didn't include a board meeting space or a big conference space or a space to be able to have, extremely large meetings. We're looking at our minimum standards. We also wanted to share at this particular point in our presentation that, again, this is based upon what we know right now. That a demographic study is coming sometime before the end of the month that will give us more insight on how our district may be changing over the next 10 years. If by chance our district ends up growing to a large extent, we will need to evaluate more space needs we will need to evaluate our space to determine if we may need more space to be able to support our growing district. Next slide. So what options did we look at? Next slide. Three major options that we identified when we're thinking of how best to house our district office. Is modernization, to conduct the modernization of our existing facility. The next was possibly switch campuses, and that's looking at our Clarendon campus and maybe doing some updates to that particular location after our Measure Z projects. Or leasing a space, acquire a lease of an existing office space, and we would still need to do what's called tenant improvements to that particular facility to make sure it meets our Washington Unified. So now we'll review those options in a little more detail. It's important to note that this, again, is based upon the information that we have right now, especially for our modernization option and our switching our campus option. We would need to get an estimator to be able to really hone in on our estimates for any modernization or any updates that may be necessary to make sure that those facilities really meet our district office needs. But when we're looking at our modernization, currently where we are right now is about 68,000 square feet. As we shared, it was built in the 40s. Some of the repairs that would be needed for this particular facility based upon, again, what we know right now before we open any walls, are repairs to correct any water intrusion or mold. We would need to address the pest problems in this particular area. As I shared, the business office area, the wing where I work, is not ADA compliant or DSA, Department of State Architect compliant, meaning we can't have students in there. And then in the past, in our research, we have determined that we did have some assessments on moving away from this facility or revising the facility. And actually in my area, that area is, has been recommended to be demolished. The annual operating cost for this facility is about $200,000. And the cost based upon what we know right now to modernize it is about $15 million. That $15 million would go to modernizing this entire campus. As I shared, we want to get an estimator to be able to truly estimate what that true cost would be to modernize it, to meet the needs of our district office staff. And again, converting a school into appropriate office space for our staff. Next slide. Switching campuses. So we looked at our Clarendon campus. It's about 100,000 square feet built in 1953. Repairs that would be needed to be able to house a district office on a permanent basis include repairs to water intrusion, mold, pest, and really configuring the space so that it would be an office space. And of course, some areas are also recommended for being demolished. I want to take a pause here because I would naturally have the question about, well, if we need these repairs in order to be able to house the district office permanently, what about the students who we plan to have there next year from Westfield or the following year from Elkhorn? Why is it okay to not do all of this $15 million repair before they get there? The repairs that we would need to have a permanent space would be more intense than the minor repairs that we need to do to be able to house students on a temporary basis. The annual operating cost is about 200, and similar to the modernization of this facility, we're looking at about 15 million. But again, we would want to get a cost estimator to really dial in on those costs. Next. The next would be leasing a space. We have identified 2 areas in West Sacramento that are available to be able to house the number of people that we have here at the district office. The first one is located at River Point Drive. River Point Drive, this is across the street from where IKEA and McDonald's is in that area. Again, we needed about 25,000 square feet. And so they do have about 25,000 rentable square feet, RSF. They actually have more available because the entire building is vacant, but we need about 25,000, built in 1991. We would need to do some tenant improvements to make it work for our district. The price per square foot is about $2.10. And the annual operating cost, we estimate at about $630,000 for the 25,000 square feet. We estimate that the cost of tenant improvements would be about $2.3 million. All of this would be honed in if we were to move forward with this and do more negotiations and have conversations to really hone in on what those numbers would be. Next slide. The other space that is available in our area is the Parkstone Center. What I've learned about this center, which is down, I believe.
Straight down Park Street.
Thank you. Straight down Park Street. This particular-
Parkstone Center. Park and Stone.
Parkstone Center.
On the
This-
corner.
It's on Park and Stone, huh?
I don't know the area. You guys let me know.
It's on
What
Park
I
and Stone.
do know about it is that on the bottom floor, there's a lot of activity. A lot of our community members go to this particular building for a variety of services. What is available is
Sorry,
the
Mike.
second floor. They have at this time about 20,000 square feet or rentable square feet available to us. He's built in 2003. We would need to do custom build out to meet our needs. Price per square foot is about $2.35. Annual operating expense for the 20,000 square feet is about 575,000, and the cost to improve it to make it work for us, we're estimating at about 1.7 million. Next slide. So in summary, if we were to look at the 3 options, with 2 options for the leasing, we're looking at a one-time cost for the district office modernization of about 15 million. A 10-year operating cost of about 2.5 million. It's important to note that we added into all of the total 10-year operating cost, about a 5% annual cost increase. And then the total investment for district modernization would be about 17.5 million. And that follows through on the side for the different options. Next slide. So analyzing these different options with the modernization, at this time, we do not have adequate funding to modernize the district office facilities based upon our current estimates. The same goes for switching campuses. Again, the cost to modernize it or update it to be able to meet our needs based upon the information we have at this time is not something we have. To lease a space, although the operating costs would increase, we do have available funds for the one-time and the ongoing costs. And we'll talk about that more and go much deeper into that in the coming slides. Sorry. Talk about funding availability. We receive what's called redevelopment agency revenue, which is a type of property tax for facilities. This is not related to developer fees, also known as impact fees, at all. Developer fees, just as a reminder, are fees that we receive when there's construction in our area. That money comes from a business who's creating, I think there's another Dutch Brothers coming in the area. We receive a certain amount of money per square feet when businesses build buildings. The rationale for that is we anticipate that if you build it, they will come. If you build something, then the people who work there will most likely want to live closer to where they work, which they bring their families here, which means we get to have their students join us at Washington Unified, which does have an effect on our facilities. We also receive a bit of money from our residents who build homes. But redevelopment agency revenue is not related to what I just shared with you. They're actually related to property tax funds. We estimate that we'll receive about 2 to 4 million annually with our current projections through 2036. Currently, we use about 70% of these RDA taxes for debt payment. We have a good amount of debt in our district, and we have a debt schedule that we are using all of these different funds to pay our debt, so about 70%. If we were to use RDA revenue for any of these options, based upon the information we have now, based upon our projections, it would not affect any services or programs for students. Next slide. Let's talk about funding availability. So for the one-time costs, as I shared a little bit before, there is sufficient RDA revenue to cover the one-time tenant improvement costs associated with either leasing option. To pay for the ongoing costs, we propose that we discuss keeping the general fund amount that we're currently paying at about $200,000 a year, and using about 15% of our annual RDA income that is not currently used for debt payment to help fund the ongoing costs. So going back to the RDA, 70% we're using for debt payment. That leaves 30% available to us that we are carrying over every year. 15% would go towards an ongoing cost to be able to pay for an option for our district housing. And that leaves another 15% that we would carry over year after year. Next slide. Our recommendation, based upon the assessment of the information we've provided, is that we discuss and consider leasing a facility that meets our space needs and also our available funding. Next slide. So what are our next steps? So today is an information and discussion session. We're here to have this discussion with you, hear your questions, gather more information should you want us to determine if we want to move forward with researching a new facility for our district office team members. Then in January, we would request board action to authorize entering into negotiations to lease a property that meets the district needs, if that's the route that you would like us to go. Next slide. I always like to thank our team. So thank you to Giselle, Daniel, Yvette, and Lena for helping us with this presentation.
Okay, are there any public comments on this item?
No public comment, Teresa.
Okay, and then I believe this went to, did this go to facility committee? So do you
Yeah.
want to begin with that? And
Sure.
tell us about-
So there's a couple of things that I can't see. Couple of things that I noticed that I kind of wanted to point out is in terms of the office, the current offices that we have that we're currently using, like the district office here, and then potentially the Clarendon office. You mentioned that or at least you put down $15 million as kind of a renovation of the entire facility. You don't have a clear idea, am I getting that from the presentation? You don't have a clear number as to what it would rent to, or it would cost to modernize the 25,000 square feet that we would need? Okay, so the issue with that is that makes it difficult is when you're looking at, put the 10-year ongoing investment, the 10-year operating cost, or total investment with the 10-year operating cost. You put 15 million in there, but we wouldn't be utilizing 15 million unless we're gonna renovate the whole building, which obviously we wouldn't do, right? So when you're making an apples to apples comparison, like Parkstone Center is 8.9, River Point is 10.3, Clarendon is 17.5, and district office is 17.5. Well, it's really not 17.5. It's whatever 25,000 square feet is of, 100,000 square foot campus, right? So I'm trying to get a real ballpark figure, and I think we're probably going to need more information on that, just so we can really understand what is our long-term cost as it impacts as it's going to impact our district. That was one of the questions that I had. I'm glad to see that you moved kind of away from the developer fee idea and using redevelopment fees. The question I had with that was, what is that 15% RDA currently being used for?
It's not being used for anything. It rolls over every year and ends up into the fund balance.
So we're not. So, okay, so is it going into savings, or are you saying that it's a use it or lose it type?
For lack of better words, it goes into our savings. The appropriate terminology is our fund balance, our
Right.
equity balance.
Right,
It's not a use it or lose it.
use it or lose it. So we're building up, right? We're building up. So what is our current of that 15%? What do we set aside? What's the amount that we set aside? Like, how much do we have?
What's the carryover?
Yeah,
I can get that particular number. that
okay.
specific number.
So one of the questions I would also have is, of the two lease facilities, because personally, this is the lease facilities I think are better options. I just want to put that out there, because I don't think it's a great idea for us to necessarily put money into something that we're not fully going to renovate, right? Like, if we're going to totally renovate that would make this the better idea, or a better option, because it could be used for multiple things. But having said that, I wanted to make sure that the public knows that, while it may be cheaper for us to renovate 25,000 square feet of this building for the long term, it may not make the best sense for us in a practical sense. Okay. So a couple of the questions I have about the facilities, are either of them, or either of the landlords local? I mean, are they local members of our community? Are they chamber members, things like that?
So can you answer that question? The landlord of the Parkstone Center is local.
Local. Where's the River Point person? Are they out of the area?
They're
or
California based, but
But
not
not,
West. Side.
not West Sac based, okay.
You were the other member of the facility.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get some thoughts. Would love to hear more of the discussion, I
And
think,
if you
from the committee.
Yeah.
Any direction or.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it was the same question on the 25,000 square feet that Kobe was talking about, but I believe in the conversation, I know that I had asked as a staff, which one
would represent our district as far as location. And I know,
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was the Park Stone that has a lot going on. So it'd be second floor. Why? So when I'm thinking about parent engagement, when I'm thinking about our families feeling like they can navigate and just come in and be welcomed, like that welcoming feel is what I was asking for. And can you just kind of elaborate a little bit on what the feel was like of these two locations?
Absolutely. As I shared with the Park Stone, I've learned it's that Park Stone location.
Also known as a medical building.
Yeah, it's also a medical building, and when you walk in, it's a beautiful building. It's a very, very nice place for our community. We go upstairs. We would go upstairs and we would share the second floor with other businesses. With the other building, I believe it's the River Point building, we would have the bottom floor, and it would be the entrance where you open it up and you look straight on, and there would be the two double doors for Washington Unified. So when we think about engagement, we think about our presence, our welcome to potential staff, to our students, to our community. There's differences in that. One, we'd have to go upstairs and they would have to look a little harder for us. The other one, when you open the doors, they would be able to see us more quickly.
And are either one of these locations gated? Are they like gated or?
Yes. The Park Stone is not gated. It has fewer parking spaces than the River Point. The River Point is gated. Right now, the entire building is empty. And they both, I don't remember, don't let me tell an incorrect thing. Do either of them have security or will have security available?
Don't believe either of them have security on site.
On site, okay, so that would be a conversation. But I do know that.
You don't have security now, right?
Yeah, you don't have.
Wide open.
That's no problem. We do have Stan, don't forget. Don't forget about Stan. We got Stan. Ampanu. All right. Yeah.
I mean, it's dark outside when we leave. There's no lights back here.
Cameras.
We have cameras. Okay.
The River Point, it does have gates around it. It does have a large amount of parking available for us and for our community. And, you know, it has a welcoming feel that I believe that is the Washington Unified Way. It's the direction we want to go to be able to create that presence and representation of who we are as Washington.
At River Point, you said.
At River Point.
Like by IKEA.
Yeah,
Feels a
Yeah,
little
that's
far.
kind of far.
it's like right off of the freeway as well. So it's like right off of Reed, Sacramento Ave going into Reed. Park Stone, literally you would need, as of right now, you would need a mask to enter the building. So it is required
Because it's medical.
because it's a
Medical
medical facility.
Mhm.
So that is something you might want to also consider or take into consideration.
Yeah.
They have Quest Diagnostics downstairs, medical lab, as well as orthodontist glasses.
Erica Freeze is there, a bunch of therapists. are
I
there.
think we all, based on the last conversation, we were leaning towards the lease option at the River Point Drive. It seemed like that's what staff kind of, I believe. So I don't remember.
I think we were split on which one, but I think
Based on like the, but I think it would be, just for transparency purposes, it would be nice if it's possible to see what the renovation or the modernization cost on that 25,000, just to have that number versus what we have now.
Yeah,
Speaking clearly.
my wondering is, I don't think DSA allows you to modernize parts of a campus, right? Like you can't do 20. No, they, right, so I think they're legal, like if you actually begin work on a campus, that's why like our bond is so big, because you have to then renovate the entire campus. If I recall from the bonds, and that's why we actually didn't really touch on the master plan. We actually didn't touch the buildings here. We just did really minimal costs. So because the renovation didn't make sense. At that time. And I could be totally wrong. You can correct me. But I thought that the law doesn't allow only 20, like only 20, only a small portion of campus.
That can provide some input.
Yeah, we would be required to do the DSA upgrades to the campus and the
Right.
ADA upgrades.
Right.
Right. So like you can't, even if you legally couldn't, do the 25, right? 25,000 square foot.
There's certain things that we would have to do.
Yeah.
So what we can do is go back, do more research, and that's why it's an information item. Do more research, get more details on that, and we can bring it back to you.
Well, let's see if are there any other comments of thoughts? Do you have any thoughts?
No, so
I have some.
I think these are just initial costs, right? So because we're trying to negotiate our rent, so these are just, I'm assuming part of the negotiation, the cost to us. They could, I mean, sometimes the leaser, whoever the landowner, we'll just call them the landowner. Actually can throw in tenant improvements and reduce that tenant improvement cost, right? This is just like the high, I want to say conservative, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's kind of the high estimate of what it would cost us out of pocket, right? Because
These are estimates based on them contributing to the parts of the cost. So this is.
So you've already negotiated?
you've already began to negotiate.
We haven't negotiated anything. We just got that information number.
Oh, got it. I'm like, okay, wait, like.
No,
okay.
there is no negotiation.
Okay. Okay. This is- okay.
Then I don't understand. Can you say that again?
So the landlords for each space provided preliminary numbers of what their contribution would be for a tenant improvement allowance.
Oh, okay. So they're willing to already kick in.
Yeah. So what's reflected here is minus the tenant improvement allowance from the landlord.
But that's negotiable. We can go back and forth depending.
Right.
Because a lot of time people are going, like if you're to your point, River Point is empty, nobody likes empty space. Right. Okay. I'm sorry. I just wanted to kind of have the full information. This is non-negotiated. This is their first bid out of,
Yeah.
but okay.
Gotta be right.
To clarify, we looked in West Sacramento to find the space that could accommodate us. These two spaces were spaces that could accommodate us. We did a walkthrough, we received their information, and now we're coming to you. We have not done any
Okay, thank you.
negotiation. We are at the very beginning of this process. We want it to be able to get your direction.
Got you. And the other thing was when you, again, just because was this based off a 10-year, you probably put it in the, like a 10-year lease, right? Okay. Okay, I'm good.
I think from my standpoint, as it's already been said, is this district office, if you came to it in a wheelchair, you can't get into our district office through the front, and there's not even a way to really negotiate, and it's amazing we're all here. Good job, everyone, like finding out how to get it here. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why this is not an acceptable facility for being inclusive of all of our families and our staff members and everyone else. I think it's the perfect location right here. This is the best location. But then I think about what is, to me, the next piece that's important is what is a good location for our families. And so as we think about that, it does concern me a little bit to think about going, kind of far out over by IKEA. Yeah. And so versus, kind of more in the heart of all of our
More centralized.
which is why this is such a great spot. But that's something that I think is that's important to me as you look and have this conversation is where are we in terms of how easy is it for our families to be there and get there? I hear you about the second floor versus the first. Are there other ways as well to get creative of what that could look like? I guess on one hand, who is at one of the properties and not the other. Would there, I don't know, would a dispensary move in? I mean, do you have, just to throw that out there, like, do we know who would be our neighbors?
And that would be more traffic.
Would we have would we have, but no, I say that because it was very controversial when there was one that was put in near our school. So now imagine if we started a school facility that could be legal. So I think you know, we don't know who could be there. And so what does that look like? So I think those are some of the questions going through my mind. And then the other piece going through my mind is that we know that our like best asset in terms of the money we have is our facility, like our land. And a lot of our land right now is, you know, we rent for no money at all or a nominal fee to the city. And we're certainly not going to want to be pulling back things like Bright Park, which is filling such a need for our kids. But we have, you know, places like this right here. And so what does that look like in terms of, are there cost savings for our land that we have? And we have other places we own land that nobody's using. They're
Right.
not used for parks, they're not used for Head Start, they're not used for anything. So I think that would be helpful for me to know too, is as we do the topographer report, also where is our land? And are there conversations like a land swap, or we could do that, you know, are there ways that we could leverage some of our space, like this space here in district office, as we have conversations moving forward, or that would help us with justifying this cost?
Is there,
Or other uses for this property, and I know that's probably in a larger financial plan of whether or not there's housing shortages, and
Yeah.
is there something that we can use for teacher housing opportunities? Public service housing opportunities, the land that we have. There's just a lot of different opportunities. Again, if there is, I'm not gonna call it dead space, just like the land that we own, like what are opportunities to kind of, we know we have a teacher shortage, like what is the livability, right? In this community, how do you work with, again, just kind of thinking out there, thinking about what was presented at CSBA, like there's a whole world of opportunity. If we decide to go down this road.
and also is there any long-term ownership potential for those facilities? Is there a chance that at some point the landlord may be willing to part ways with the facility to the school district? Or like Sarah said, with the land swap plus cash, right? You know, I know not in the near future because we have absolutely zero bond space to do that, but you know, maybe 10, 15 years down the road, once this is, you know, after the first lease, right? Can we now have an asset?
That might be a lot to do before our next meeting.
Right, but
But
there are
it would-
questions.
It would maybe be helpful just to show us, like, here's the map of, I know we have a lot of land as well that's set aside for potential schools one day or whatnot. And so just knowing what we own, where it is, I think is also helpful in this.
And I'm wondering about the future presentation, right? So, but for now, in terms of lease, I'm okay with you exploring the lease option, negotiating and pitting them against each other and seeing.
Is there a timeline
Being landowners.
has to be done by? Are we in a like time crunch that we need to have to do this by?
The sooner the better. We're not the only one around looking for space. We do plan to bring this back at our next regularly scheduled board meeting, which is at the end of January. So that would be the time when we would come back for action to get direction from you on exactly what our next steps are. A lot could happen between now and then, or nothing could happen between now and then.
It's not a vote, but I'm go ahead and explore, like if that's the recommendation. I'm okay with that.
Well,
Yeah, I think.
yeah,
Because you guys both recommended it to
gotta,
explore.
well, we wanted more information.
Mhm.
That's basically what our conclusion was, that we both were in agreement that leasing was the option. We weren't sure which one was the best. In fact, I think you asked for looking for other lease spaces. So that's another question. Since our facilities, did you
Yeah,
look for,
we did.
did you find anything that was
No,
remotely close?
not even close.
Yeah.
So the only options were some retail locations that we could potentially look at around along West Capitol.
Oh,
Would it meet the square footage that we need?
I can imagine which places those are.
That'd be where the old Togo's was?
Yes.
Hmm.
Oh.
Some could combine them.
retail, that'd be interesting. We could sell stuff. We can sell swag. That's how we qualify.
We have really good district swag.
Yeah.
But I think it sounds like everyone here is supportive of.
Yeah.
Facility sub, yeah, if that, if
And
that's a
then-
recommendation.
Would
It's-
it
it's
come
just
back
which one.
to, would the facility team see this again before we see it as a full board, I guess would be my other question. We're on a tight timeline.
So the plan, the original plan was to have an information discussion, then come back for action on what you all want us to do. I think I'm hearing something differently. Can you tell me what you're recommending right now for our next steps?
I think we're all moving towards leasing,
Yeah,
right? So it's,
but we have questions about like,
We don't know which site.
well, that and, you know, what is renovating 25,000 square feet look like and cost at our facilities? Because I think we owe that to our constituents to be able to say, hey, look, this is why we can't do it and why it's not, you know,
And even if it's legally possible to do that, right, explore the idea, but like, if it's not legally possible to only do.
explain why it's not legally possible, right? So we want to make sure we're backed up in evidence and fact and ensure, you know, making the decisions we're doing, right? So I know that's something I would consider. And then for me, that's basically all I need. You know, I would prefer that we look more for of a local
Yes.
landlord than a, you know, broader landlord, but it's always more locally sourced as.
so do we have to wait till the end of January to say, can you start exploring negotiating?
That's tonight.
You've got,
Direction
now?
tonight, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
we've got direction.
starting that
Negotiate,
tomorrow.
negotiate.
Yes,
So to
start that after the
clarify,
meeting.
Continue to look at available space in the West Sacramento area. Should something pop up tomorrow,
Right.
explore that option.
If it's viable, like there's a viability, if it's a viability thing, if it's only.
If it's better than
100
what we
square
have,
feet,
I mean, it really,
yeah.
if it's better than these two options, right?
I think the Van Gogh,
Yeah. I trust staff on
Yeah,
figuring out
yeah,
what
yeah.
we need, what I'm.
because they're going away in January,
And
right?
then go,
That's a-
we have at least 2 properties here that you feel are viable, right? And we know that there's an action item in January. So I hear, and tell me if I'm wrong, like begin the further exploration. That's why I asked, is this a first, like, have you been negotiating, not negotiating yet?
It's further exploration.
Yeah, I
negotiating.
would say next item would be an information discussion. I would say next item that they bring back in January would be an information discussion, and then the following one would be an action. Because they have to bring back information to us so we can look at it and then analyze it, and then it won't be as long as a conversation, right?
I think we've all said, explore, ready for that. If you wanted, would you be okay with an update? If there was a board update that was sent to us on paper, board update, and then we could have that woven into an action.
If you
item
send it to
coming
me
up.
in a memo, I'm fine. As
Okay.
long as I have the information, you know, that I want to see, you know, that, well, although this is kind of something that we want our public to see as
Right,
well
it's a big-
too.
It's a big change.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money.
Have
A sub.
a subcommittee in January
That's fine.
for the board meeting, would that be,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
that way,
I don't know how much we will get done between now and then. Just practically being able to gather the information, should we contact any more leasers, even contacting the state and making sure we get the information because of the holiday season. The next board meeting is January 26th. If we do have a subcommittee meeting, we typically don't want to make another meeting on that same week, but we're happy to do so. And so I want to be realistic on what we would be able to bring to the subcommittee at that time. What a suggestion that I have, if I think I'm hearing you all clearly, is that we absolutely get more information about the cost related to renovating 25,000 square feet. I think I'm hearing begin negotiating the leasing information and bring it back either to the subcommittee or or the entire board at the January 26th meeting to provide you an update. any conversations we have related to the leasing, it's our practice to bring to you as an information item and then an action item. So no agreements would be made without your direction and consent.
So,
And that still seems to go right along with your,
yeah.
on your next steps. It says January 2023 requests the, action to authorize the negotiation. So it feels like that keeps us all right on.
So I guess the only thing,
Now, but we're
the 15 million,
says authorizing it on the 26th.
What are we authorizing in the 26th in your step? I guess it's
Yeah.
in your step. What do you mean by that? Yeah.
Direction to begin negotiating.
Oh, I
with
gotcha.
The different and differently on the different landlords, for lack of better words, at this.
Oh, I see. So you won't negotiate now. Okay. So you're gonna come back and get the authorization.
Without your direction.
Got you.
so the information that I want to make sure that the public has an opportunity here is, the 15 million may not be indicative of what renovate this, 5,000 square feet chunk of the facility. So that I think is important for everyone to hear before we make any
Yeah.
final direction or determination. That's why, that's my only
Yeah. I mean,
pause about
yeah. And we can
making an
always
action.
pull it. So I mean, you can do an action item to negotiate, but if you come, it sounds like you should probably bring that, review this probably again as part of the action item, but also provide the data and information about the law, about what was,
Right.
what trustee Pizzotti just asked about 25 square feet actually isn't legal, the laws that the DSA laws, all of that.
Right.
Or probably a couple more slides about why it's 15 million and not a portion of the campus.
Well,
Right, likely. That's my
Yeah.
assumption. I don't know the full law, but my assumption is that's why you put the 15 million, because I trust staff. I trust staff and the expertise. How about that? Because that needs to be in it. Like, the public needs to understand the intricacy of why we can't just renovate 25,000 square feet here.
Right.
Why that is not part of your recommendation.
I think the real question is going to be, why are we, if it ends up being, that the cost to renovate 25,000 square feet is, $4 million. And the 10-year operating cost is 2.5, that instead of making it 17.5 million, it's only 6.5 million versus 10 million, right? So that's kind of the cost benefit analysis that I want everybody to make sure is very clear.
Yeah, I think we're going in circles now, though,
Yeah,
because I feel like we've said,
would
do
hope
you, do you hear that clearly? Because I feel like you don't hear
Yeah, I
that
didn't
clearly
think
what's
so.
new to us.
I think that where we are now is that in January, we will bring you more details related to the modernization and updating costs based upon the information we find. And then we'll request actions for next steps. We will not be doing any
Right.
negotiation between now and then. We want to continue our path as stated in the presentation, to gather your questions and determine what additional information you would like and bring that to you on our next virtual meeting schedule.
Okay,
Yes.
and then with that was also the land piece, looking at how we could leverage that possibly in an intervention.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May I make sure that I captured those? So I heard the exact carryover of our RDA.
Yes.
I heard the potential long-term ownership for facilities.
Yeah.
I heard, do we know who would be our neighbors? I heard, an idea, and you may request that it be a bigger presentation, but if we're able to show all the land that we own, being able to share that with you all. And then also, Give me trustee. I forgot the one that you just told me. Did I capture the?
Leveraging just our properties we have now.
Yes.
Like a land
Yeah,
swap.
Which I-
leveraging for current-
It's probably part of.
And I understand that that also has a full process that goes through with the public if there's
It does.
any surplus land or facilities. But I think it is an important thing to make sure that we're, since it is our most valuable asset.
Yeah, the more I think about it, by January, as a whole presentation on surplus land, it's probably like a smart
Yeah,
informational, just on all the land, right? Just not just related to those leases, but all of our surplus.
Yes. And that's what.
I guess probably a better, a smarter way to kind of go about it versus just a piecemeal. Because we want a big picture to understand the surplus land issue.
And that should come with our draft demographic.
Yeah, correct.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
we should be able to provide that. to you.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of big pieces.
I think I know who our neighbors are at 75 River Point. That's medical.
CCPOA.
I thought it was medical health insurance.
Well, across the street on the other side.
And as our,
All right.
Sorry.
So that's okay. That takes us now to our consent agenda.
There we go.
All right. Are there any public comments on the consent agenda?
It was read during the public.
Thank you.
Other than that, no other public.
Okay, and are there any changes to the consent agenda? Any items to pull? Okay,
I move.
I second.
okay. Moved by trustee Pizzotti, seconded by trustee Venegas, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Two vote aye, very enthusiastically for our agenda.
Hey, monkeys.
Thank you for saying. Okay. All right, that now takes us to action item 1, approval of the purchase of HPE Nimble Backup Data Storage Solutions from CDW-G Stan Moisich, Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services.
you know, just negotiate now. Just go.
I know, well,
Just go.
Evening, everybody.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, tonight we are asking for you to allow us to do a data backup. We have a disaster recovery solution. Since our current solution is at the end of life and requires an update,
Oh, end of life
for new
issue.
hardware and storage solutions. So we are asking you to approve this so that our data can be much more secure. It is a very necessary update. I have a wonderful director of technology in his very festive sweater behind me, if you have any questions.
I believe in these.
Yes, but I mean, how can you not believe a man in a sweater like that? So we're asking you guys to pass this item to see.
Are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Any board comments? Okay, good motion.
Motion. There's a question?
Nope. No question.
Second.
I second. Did you say do I motion second? Virginia.
She
said-
made
No,
a-
I
she
made the
made a
motion.
motion.
I second.
Okay, I was just getting ready to say clerk coffee. Motion. Vice President Wah, seconds, all in favor.
Aye.
I too, vote aye, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So that now takes us to approval of the first interim financial
But I
report.
do have one comment though, after we're back. When are we going to see the Lego classroom?
There's a Lego classroom.
Wait,
There's a
what?
Lego classroom here, Lego robotics classroom.
Where?
We've got a few out right now.
I know.
The other day, working with security out at Southport, we got all their
I
teachers
know, I'm cold.
able to check out some Lego tubs.
Okay, to be a good update.
Or their new
But now we are in action item 2, approval of the first interim financial report for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Assistant Superintendent.
Again, I am now joined by our Director of Fiscal Services, Billy Duba, to present to you this year's first interim financial report. Next slide. The purpose of this, as I shared, is to present the report. So we will cover our legal requirements, provide some core messages, then provide a summary of the report. Also to take a look at our multi-year projections and then talk about our next steps. Slide. In alignment with our strategic plan. We're talking finances. And this means that we are touching every aspect of our strategic plan because we need the proper funding to be able to support our students and staff. Next slide. Therefore, it also aligns to all pillars within our strategic plan. As we do great things for students. Next slide. Every budget meeting, we like to share our annual budget cycle. We are at the first interim report in December. You'll notice that there's a strikeout for our audit. Like last year, our audit will be presented in January versus in December. Next slide. A few legal requirements. The first interim report is due to the county on December 15th. We met that obligation. And it is, I like to call it the first quarterly report because most people are familiar with those types of terms. But here in schools, we call it the first interim report. Our first interim is for the period ending October 31st. So from July 1 to October 31st. It must be approved by you all, our governing board of education. As I shared, submitted to the county. We must submit the certification of the report, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, to the superintendent of public instruction and the state comptroller's office. And we certify it as positive, which is fantastic for our district, and we'll provide more details. Next slide. 4 messages. Next slide. A district must certify whether or not the financial projections show that it will or may not or will not meet its financial obligations this year and the subsequent 2 years. Based upon our projections in the first interim report, we show that it indicates that we will have a positive certification. And that means that we will meet our financial obligations for the current year and the subsequent 2 years. Next slide. Want to talk about enrollment. This year, we were so happy to see that it appears that our students are coming back to us. Last year, we had a dip down. This year, we're calling our enrollment a bit steady. However, based upon the information right now, we do anticipate a decline in enrollment. The major factor is declining birth rates in our area. California-wide, birth rates are going down, but here in our area, they're going down even more. People just aren't having as large of families that they used to have, and that affects the students that are coming to us. We also, in all of our enrollment, we keep an eye on our students coming to us and leaving to go to charter schools. We have 3 major charter schools in our area that affect our enrollment. And so in all of our projections, we're taking a look at our charter schools in and out. I do want to say, not just in the West Sacramento area, we have our charter schools, but in the Sacramento area, we know that our West Sacramento residents are even leaving our city to go to different charter schools. So we keep a keen eye on that. Our executive director of communications is doing some amazing campaigns on enrollment to help people learn about the wonderful things we're doing in our district. So we always hope this declining enrollment trend will be able to kind of shift a little bit and bring our students back to us. Next slide. District average daily attendance. We're funded by how many students actually come to school every day. About 95.5% of our students attend school each day based upon information in October. We get to use a 3-year average to calculate our funded ADA. Therefore, our funded ADA is higher than our actual ADA. So let's take a look at this table here. In the blue, that's our actual ADA. But because we get to use that 3-year average, in the orange, we get a little bump. So for example, in 22-23, our actual ADA is actually 6,937, but we're funded on 7,147. So we have a little relief with our declining enrollment, but we still need to keep our eye on where our enrollment and our ADA is trending. Next slide. So we always want to take a look too at our Washington Middle College High School. This year, we saw a pretty dramatic change in our enrollment. We went from 184 last year to about 151 this year. About 92% of their students attend school each day. Even though we had a decline in their enrollment, we do anticipate that that will be pretty steady. And we know that our principal, who was here earlier today, we know that she's working to bring more students into that school, and we want to see that tide turn of it. Next slide. So let's get into our first interim. As we shared, we do project that we're going to have a positive certification that will meet our financial obligations for the next few years. But now we want to get just a little bit into the high level details, and I'll pass this over to our Director of Fiscal Services.
Hi, good evening. All right, first we're talking about the unrestricted side of our budget.
Say what, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you explain what unrestricted is?
Unrestricted, this is, we're talking about our general fund, LCFF dollars. That we're getting. The revenue changes that we're going to show you in the next slide is actually an increase to our LCFF formula. And then we're also going to include the home to school transportation funding that was increased. Our expenses, we reconciled our positions, so our budget now matches our current positions for all the salaries and benefits. Also funded our technology replacement program, and we adjusted our expenses for the utility rates that keep going up. The gas is much higher than we thought, water, electricity. We also included some contributions. We did transfers out to the deferred maintenance fund and our OPEB, the other post-employment benefits. And then we set up a special reserve fund for CPAP that were approved at the last. So those numbers look like this. For the unrestricted budget, our revenue, we're now projecting at 94.1 million. We're at the adopted budget, so 88.9. So we're seeing an increase of 5.1 million. Our expenses are pretty similar to what we saw at adopted budget. They went down 252,000, which gives us a surplus of 5.3 million versus our adopted budget. After our contribution to the restricted and the transfers out, I just mentioned on the previous slide, we're going to show an increase to our fund balance of 885,000 versus where we're at the adopted budget. Slide, please. The restricted side of our budget, these are our one-time funds. We added the revenue for all the new programs that we're anticipating receiving this year. We expanded Learning Opportunities Program, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. We added the revenue for the literacy coaches and reading specialists, the Arts, Music, and Instruction Discretionary Block Grant. We went through the positions for the expenses, and that was done to we have in our staff. Special service expenses increased, budget for the Title I carryover, and added some expense budgets for the new programs. Next slide, please. The numbers of that look like this. Revenue, all those one-time funds increased our revenue by $24.5 million this year.
Nice.
Plan to spend 6.3 million of that over the adopted budget, so our expenses went up a little bit. We still are showing a surplus. Now we're showing a surplus of 4.3 million. At adopted budget, we plan to have a deficit, so our variance is 18.2 million, which gives us a net increase to the restricted fund of 18.7 million. Look at the ending fund balance of just the restricted general fund versus the last approved operating budget. Now at first interim, we're showing 14.9 million for an ending fund balance, which is 885,000 of the last approved budget. Yes, for our most year perspective. Some of the things we considered when we made the multi-year projection were the declining enrollment we just talked about. Considered inflation, all these new one-time revenues and the positions that are funded by those. Have to the general fund. So, factors affecting jobs. So here's what it looks like. The revenue we're projecting to increase by a couple $1 million every year. The expenses likely showing a net decrease to our fund balance every year. This current year, we're projecting a decrease by 3.1 million. 23, 24, 2.1, and then 24, 25, 2.9 million. Bringing our ending fund balances down there at the end. Current year, 14.9 million. Next year, 12.8 million. And then 24, 25, we expect a fund balance of 9.9 million. Bottom line there is our reserve percent. Balance based on the percent of our expenses. So, all right, next steps for our budget. That will be our first meeting. We're going to continue to monitor the final budget, and in January that will. Is that? Here's the budget section. Reports.
Thank you. Are there any public comments?
No public comment.
Okay, then I'll take it to the board. Any board comment?
I always ask this because I think the public needs to hear it, is when we have a this reserve percentage is 11, how much of that would cover operating costs in like the Great Recession we had when we had to cut in the middle of the year? How much would that actually really, how many days would that keep us operating? Because I see that the reserve percentage is going down, which I feel it's lower than we've ever had. We, myself and my organization keep a 15% reserve. So you're at 11, 9, and 7. I'm just watching it, so.
So we know that you all have made a policy that we hold 6% of that back for economic uncertainties. Economic uncertainty should cover about 1 month of personnel costs. Billy, correct me if I'm wrong. So if we're looking at an 11%, does 6% even cover 1 month of our personnel costs? To put you on the spot, but it would cover. Yeah, it does. So we're looking at just under 2 months of personnel.
Yes. And can you remind me what CASBO recommends?
Yes, so CASBO, which is the California Association of School Business Officials,
Sarah's on my maternity leave, otherwise I would text her right now.
exactly. Well, I can say, I know by law, we need to have a 3%. We can have no more than 10% reserve. And so we have to get under that 10%. Before we had the max of our 10%, most unified districts were sitting at about 17% reserve. We're not there.
Yeah.
So I can get back
Oh,
on
that-
my mind.
Yeah, so it's the 10% cap. So just, again, I ask it every time you present. I think it's just fair to say, hey, this is really the real cost, considering that the LAO's budget is projecting $25 billion
I was just
deficit.
gonna say that, yeah.
And there will be real impact and a possibility of diving into our educational reserves at the state. So just cognizant of like all these numbers will change Jan 10 with all of those new projections. So.
I'm gonna piggyback on that because, yeah, LEO and DOF said we're gonna be short about 25 billion of projections from revenues. Did our budget, so I know that we received nearly 6% in COLA, or effectively a COLA last year. And then it was projected around 3 and change for the ongoing years, and then going down to 2, I think, or something like that. That was the projected from, was it school business, school services or something?
School services.
School
Did-
Services of California projected, I believe, will we receive 6%, 5%, and then 3% in the coming years.
Okay. Given that 25 billion short is going to eat into that dramatically, have we in our budget projection or in our budget adopted the 6, 5, and 3?
Yes.
Okay, so looking forward, if we don't get that, where do we fall? Like, where do we look? I mean,
So if we do not receive the COLA as included in this budget report and the adopted budget report, if it's less, then our revenue will be less. Therefore, our ending fund balance, if we do not make any changes to our expenses, will be lower. Ironically, even though the California economy is estimating a $25 billion shortfall, the economists are indicating that our COLA may actually increase. All of this is projections. You know, even the information that we shared with you right now, it's going to change. It's already changed because we pay bills every week. What's going to be the next big benchmark is that next step in our budget cycle with the governor's January budget. That's where we get an indication of what our fiscal outlook might be. We can't hang our hat on it because a lot changes from January to July, but it does give us an indication of where we might be as schools. I recently went to the California Association of School Business Officials, Chief Business Official Symposium, where we were able to hear from the Legislative Analyst Office, the LAO, and get that hot off the press. I think it was the day after report from them where they were talking about the California economy based upon their projections. And what they were saying is the economy is tanking, but school districts might be protected, but we need to continue to stay very fiscally responsible like we have been in the past in this district, should something change.
And that's because of the rainy day fund that was set aside for education. And then can you remind me, and you know better than I do, COLA is indexed to the CNI or CPI?
CPI.
So consumer price index, which we all know the cost of goods is going up. That's why that's why it's going up, because we know that everything's costing more. Again, explaining to the public what the COLA is predicated on, right? Versus what we need as an index. So all teeing up for, I think I'm interested in the fiscal, but we're jumping.
Our next agenda item.
And so, yes, it still doesn't mean that we shouldn't be conservative and fiscally responsible. It's one of our fiduciary responsibility as a board. I do have a question, and it's not here, and it's probably more in the next budgeting exercise, is that some of this is the arts money, and that I just would like us to keep that towards arts, because that's important to my kids. You all know that, and you all know lots of things, that choices that I had to make. And that when we budget, we kind of pour into and ensure that that categorical is going actually into our arts programs here. So we're going back to the age of categoricals. We don't like it, but it is what it is because people forget LCFF. So.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, can I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all right, moved by Vice President Wong, seconded by Trustee Guzatti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Okay, and that takes us down to board governance, and that piggybacks well into our configuration of the finance subcommittee to begin January of 2023. Director Hildreth.
Thank you, President Kirby Gonzalez. This item is coming back from our regular board meeting that we held on December 9th. And the board, along with district staff, discussed establishing a budget finance subcommittee as of January 1st, 2023. And the goal of that committee would be to ensure fiscal solvency and budget accountability, which supports our strategic plan and our LCAP. The subcommittee's task would be to review the previous year's unaudited actuals, the first interim financial report, the second interim financial report, and the proposed budget for the following year's budget or the adopted budget. And so these committee meetings would center around the budget development and the calendar and would have quarterly meetings. So tonight, we are seeking approval for number one, to establish a budget finance subcommittee for our Board of Trustees. And then also to request that the board select the 2 members who would participate on that committee.
Okay. And will you have, in terms of staff, it's just going to be 2 board members and staff?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't think we need to take a vote to approve. in this
I think to
way.
establish it, we have to.
Yeah, we do.
Vote to establish it
Okay, so
as part of the bylaws and.
do we have any public comment on this then?
No public comment.
No? Okay. Do we have any board comments?
I'll move to establish.
Second.
Okay, perfect. So trustee Basadi, seconded by trustee Vanays, all in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Okay, so there we go. And now we have 2 board members. Are there any interests in the board?
I'm interested.
Okay, all right. So Vice President Wong is interested. Any others?
Nobody
I
wants to
can-
balance books.
I can join you. And then do we have an alternate? Would somebody like-
I'll be an alternate.
Okay. All right, there you go.
Thank you.
Have Vice President Wong and I with an alternate of trustee. Okay. And that now takes us into our board and superintendent comments. Dr. Hildreth.
Thank you. Really want to take this time as we are ending our fall semester that we just take stock of all that we've accomplished since school started, just thinking about the support we have given to our schools, the hard work of our teachers, our support staff, and it's hard to believe that we're almost halfway through the semester, but it's that focus that we have with our strategic plan. We have started in what the implementation is going to look like. We have reached out with community partners, and I think for me, really highlighted what we saw happening in schools. If we think about our student board member report, where there were celebrations at every school site and fun activities for students. And I attended a coffee with the principal at Stonegate, and just hearing the administrators and the parents at that meeting talking about they wanted to do like a raffle for students. But the conversation was about, let's make sure that we have tickets and things available for those students who may not be able to purchase or do things on their own, that to hear that that was a community conversation about making sure every student was included just was good for me to hear how our equity lens is really becoming the community conversation. That it really is about, that's an event for all students, but there was we recognize that all students may not have access in the same way. And so the school community was making sure that access was available. So that was wonderful. And then to culminate the support we give to students, I was able to participate maybe a week and a half ago with our amazing team, our outreach, our social workers, our homeschool liaisons at the Collins Teen Center, pouring rain, that it was filled with families and students. There was 200 bikes that were given out. Thank you to Vice President Wong, who was able to be there. Chief Strange was there. And the kids were so excited. There was a Santa Claus, there was a Rotary, it was food, it was everything. And then the next day, that Sunday, was Shop with a Cop. And so that was my first experience doing Shop with a Cop and being able, again, thank you, Vice President Wong, Councilmember Early was there, of course, Chief Strange, and all the team, also members from the DA were there, and it was 30 students who were supported, and there was a whole caravan of cars and buses we went from the teen center to IKEA, and they were partnered up with law enforcement. And the intent of that activity is really so that our students can begin to see law enforcement in a positive interaction and build those positive relationships. So, and then this past weekend, I think it was the YCCA toy distribution. I wasn't able to attend that event, but our team was there, and that's what we do. And that's what we do for our students. So I think that just speaks volumes of not only the support for the district, but also of how we partner with the community to provide for our students. So I think that's fabulous. I'm looking forward to everyone having a wonderful holiday and celebrating with family and friends. I know my celebration started early because I have these three. My own.
She's so proud of you. You have no idea.
Oh, I was
wondering. Since I'm not out yet, they decided
Are
to
these
come
movies?
and.
Are they like?
Ooh, I thought it was like a college assignment.
I did with the Clipper shirt. I was like, you're not from here.
Right. So it was good for them to be able to see what I do, because I thought about.
Kings.
Take your kid to school day.
Last week on the 9th, and because when I entered on Zoom. And so they never had the opportunity to see what I do or see the people who I talk about, or just
What'd she say about it?
understand why, why I'm so hyped to be here and why they've given me up and allow me to do what I do. It's because of the support that I have from them. So I am truly, truly grateful.
Thank you for giving her us a tour.
Of course.
She does great.
Thank you for sharing.
We also have a special something. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a little something that we want to be able to share and give and recognize our past president. So Vice President Wong, but former President Wong, we have this beautiful plaque that we just want to allow you to hopefully put in your office or for your family, who allowed you to not only be part of this wonderful board, but for you and I know President Kirby Gonzalez and Trustee Pizzotti, who have held this gavel in the role of president. You're giving an extra part of yourself and an extra part of your time for serving the public. And so it's a small recognition of all that you've done, but I want to say thank you on behalf of our executive cabinet for all that you did and led us through in another year of uncertainty, which was the 21-22 school year. So ending with Trustee Pizzotti and you taking over and starting this year. And I truly am grateful for your leadership and your counsel and your advice as I have been able to also grow in this position. So want to say thank you, and this is for you.
Thank you. Go Kings.
Right?
Thank you. Well said, thank you. Okay, Trustee Lenez.
Yeah, gracias. Happy holidays to everybody. I'm making sure we get her out on time, so I'll keep it short. Thank you.
You're very good at that.
Yeah.
All right, Trustee Pizzotti.
I just want to say happy holidays to everyone, and I hope they enjoy their break. I did see an article today. I was reading about it, and while part of it I didn't agree with, there was talk about a subject that was very near and dear to my heart, and that was dyslexia screening. And one of what the article was talking about was there was a piece of legislation last year that would have mandated dyslexia screening for all first graders. And while the bill failed for various political reasons, the idea is still very laudable. And in fact, LA Unified is actually moving forward with it on their own. So I know that's not something that we're doing now or budgeted for now, but I would love for us to consider the idea and how that may be possible, or look into how that may be possible in the future. It's 1 in 5 kids have dyslexia, and a whole lot more go undiagnosed. And I can speak from experience. So I just truly hope that we can find some kind of way of moving forward with, some sort of more universal approach to doing dyslexia screening and catching them before we get into iReady and things like that. Because we can start to see the adverse impacts already once we get into 3rd grade.
That's it. Clerk Coffee.
Igualmente, let me make it short. Feliz, we're having happy holidays. And I say that because of so many different things that are going on. My family right now in Mexico are actually celebrating Posadas. So I am so jealous and wish I was there. But I have to say that one of the things that really touched me, at least for this meeting, was watching Jose. And just seeing that whole beginning to end. I mean, that's literally why we're here, right? Like that right there. So it's great. So that's all I got. Happy holidays.
All right, Vice President Wong.
Come on. Merci. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do every single day. Ooh, it's the end of the year, right? Like when you reflect back and you're like just beginning with a student, ending with a student. I had the opportunity to actually celebrate 20 years of the Home Run Project. That was a collaboration between the city and us. And to see those providers in what we now know is the right mixed delivery program for our families center in that. And seeing the video is that we are better together. We know during COVID we were apart, and like we are actually coming back together in a space that feels good and right. And I am grateful for your yes. I am grateful that you allowed me to lead with you together as a team. Looking forward to the next couple of years, right, of what we will accomplish under your leadership for the kids, because that's what we're here for, right? On this equity and justice lens, when we talk about community schools, I know that you're doing with families. I know that you are, right? Like, and to be able to send that message to the rest of the YOLO and the region and the state. I'm just so proud of the work that we've done. And grateful that at the end of the day, we're centering kids and families and community, right? Because we do not exist without them, right? None of us do. And so that's why we're here. We're not doing it for the money, right? I forgot that I didn't get paid in July, so thanks for the check. But really, that's why I'm here. That's why we spend these hours. That's why we fight like siblings and family, because we care. We care from the spaces that we care about. So thank you. And I'm just honored. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, and happy Festivus for the rest of us.
That's right.
Right? Is that right?
That's right.
Festivus. All right. So, all right. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, yeah, this is an exciting time, ending our year right now and getting ready. I know all of our Washington Unified staff is very ready to go on break. I'm sorry, a few more days. But thank you for all that you've done to really open this year so strong and get us through where we are now. And we're at a really exciting time getting ready for our next school year, but getting some time to all relax and take some time for our families. And all of the community partners I wrote down have already been mentioned. This is the time of year, especially now, where really our community partners are all working so closely, wrapping their arms around our kids. And thank you to all of you here who've given your time to be there for them. And so, and having a mother who's a superintendent is a big sacrifice, I know, on family as well. And so thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your mother with us. And we're very grateful to have Dr. Hildreth here leading us. So happy holidays to all and thank you for all for what you do. And yeah, that's it now.
We have a
So do we have to
future
close?
board agenda. item.
Oh.
Just those.
The board president has skipped it.
We were so
Get us out of here. I'm
close.
good. I'm like,
We'll go real quick. You're right. We were so close. I wanted by 8:30. We're so close. Okay. Future board agenda items. We have our study session, which is going to be in January for the budget study session. We have our handbook, which this says January, but we talked about maybe it being in February with Dr. Carl Cohn, I think as well. We have adopt our official Washington Unified School District land acknowledgement in February. Board equity governance in February, maybe those.
I think that's split. So
Oh, okay.
Equity governance would be January and
Okay.
board governance would be February.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay. And then our strategic plan mid-year progress update and our staffing ratios. Is there anything else to add on to here?
The land study that we added today.
oh, yeah,
That's surplus,
surplus property.
surplus property.
Okay. Surplus land study. Perfect.
And did we ask for the demographic study?
The demographer is already slated. We've already hired them. They're doing all their work, right? So that is not on here, but I assume that's gonna be next meetings. Okay. Or, okay, okay. Anything else? Okay, all right, then with that. we're ready to go. Have a wonderful.
You need to get her a gavel.